Hi, so for my M1 concept of analysis, I am going to be going over the classical period of communication studies, which was from 500 BCE to 400 CE. So the classical period is characterized by the newly placed high value on argumentation skills, accentuated emotion and logic, and spoken word. We saw the emergence of the Fantastic Four, Aspasia of Miletus, Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato, and we even saw those scholars who expanded the field even more and built off of their work, such as Corax, Titius, Panchao, Cicero, and Quintilian. First, I want to talk about Aspasia of Miletus. Aspasia is credited with being the mother of rhetoric. This is because she was one of the only very prominent and influential female scholars during the classical period. She overcame her gender barriers during this time because Greece still had the idea that men were the only gender deserving of education and women were excluded from this right. She paved the way for early feminism because she fought and worked her way into dialogue with the well-educated men in her society, and is even credited from Socrates as having one of the best intellects in the whole city. Now I want to go and talk about Plato. A process of questions and answers that would lead to the ultimate truth and understanding was the way that Plato conceptualized dialects. It is important to note that Plato was a student of Socrates, which is why most of what Plato wrote in regard to the rhetoric is in the form of dialogue between himself and Socrates. And then we have Aristotle, who is probably one of the most famous Greek scholars. Aristotle believed in using rhetoric to create a community. He opened his own school to teach his students about science, philosophy, politics, and of course, rhetoric communication. He is most commonly known for his means of persuasion contributions, which include logos, logical reason, pathos, emotional appeal, and ethos, human character. Through the use of these means, he argued that you can persuade anyone to do anything if you use the appropriate message and strategy for your specific audience. And then now we have Cicero. Similar to Aristotle, Cicero emphasized the rhetoric and persuasion relationship and the ability it had to be applied to politics. In the communication field, Cicero was credited with creating a 5-step process for developing a persuasive speech. And this process is still used today to teach public speaking, which I think is really cool. The steps include the first step, 1, formulate arguments based on logos. 2, order the speech in the most effective manner for your specific audience. 3, use the correct language to make arguments easily acceptable by your audience. 4, memorize your arguments. And 5, use nonverbal behaviors to enhance delivery. So, although it may seem counterintuitive to a lot of students to learn about the history of communication in order to get an understanding of communication today, since it does seem to be very different, but it is important to understand how key rhetorics shaped the communication field today. It is essential to understand the politics and ideals that shaped the discoveries of these famous rhetoricians, so that we can continue to alter and enhance the communication needs of today's society.